Hey, thanks for tuning in to the show. Now, today we talk specifically about the distinction between authority and influence and why it even matters. In fact, we break down how you can build influence without forcing people to follow you. And I give you two specific examples from people who are very well known. You know who they are. And one example is great, and the other one is not so great. And it's going to help you understand the difference between influence and authority. In fact, we're going to do it all in 15 minutes. This one's a quick one, but I think it's going to be unbelievably helpful for you. So stay tuned. Hey, gang, welcome back to the Owolabi podcast. Now, I'm excited that you're here because today we're talking about something that I believe is absolutely critical for your growth as a leader. Now, the reason why I think it's so important is because it's something that is very, very simple, but obviously and very often overlooked. And when I start talking to you about it, you'll recognize this problem again and again and again. And there's no doubt that you've dealt with leaders who've dealt with this problem. I know maybe you've dealt with this personally, but for sure, you've worked with leaders, around leaders who've struggled with this. Here's the challenge that is so simple to fix, but oftentimes overlooked. It's the idea of building credibility on authority and not on influence. I'll say it again, building credibility on authority and not on influence. Every leader wants to be credible. When you say something, you want people to listen. When you say, hey, we should go left, you want your team to go left. When you say, hey, we should go right, you want your team to go right. You want people to listen. You don't want them to be robots, of course, but you want them to listen to you as someone who's credible, someone who knows what you're doing, you know where you're headed, and you know why you're going there. Now, of course, you have all kinds of reasons why, and maybe you're a great leader and you want to serve people and help people, and you want to be the kind of person that makes everyone's lives better, and you want to do great for your company, you want to do great for the world, great for your church, whatever. You want to do that. But at the same time, in order to do that, you have to give some sort of direction. You need credibility. If you don't have credibility as a leader, then it's almost like not having oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, you're going to die right away. It's a matter of time. If you don't have credibility, you're not going to lead much longer. People aren't going to follow you. And then, like John Maxwell says, if you're leading but no one's following, then you're just out for a walk. And that's not what you want. You want actual credibility. Now, the problem, though, is that you oftentimes, and I think a lot of people oftentimes, I've done this in the past, you lead with authority to gain credibility as opposed to influence. One of the best stories that I've heard of people who have learned not to lead with authority and have used their influence instead comes from Tom Brady. Now, as I explain this, you'll understand exactly what I mean by authority and influence. Now, Tom Brady, a lot of you know who Tom Brady is. He's one of the, if not the greatest football player of all time. Won more championship rings by himself than most teams have won in their entire franchise. So he has done a lot of great things. He played football for the New England Patriots for a long time. And then towards the end of his career, he decided to leave the New England Patriots and he tried to go to a different team. He decided to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a lot of different reasons. But when he showed up, he had been in New England for years. He was known all over the world as the best football player of all time. And he'd won so many championships and he had all kinds of friends in Boston. Now he's going down to Tampa Bay. He doesn't know hardly anybody. He doesn't know anybody on the team. They know him. He doesn't know them. It's a perfect opportunity for him to flex his muscle and say, hey, everybody, I'm Tom Brady and we're going to win a championship because why? I'm Tom Brady, right? He's still good. He's still in his prime. He can just flex his muscle and tell everybody, you should listen to me because I have loads of credibility here and look who I am. So he walks into the locker room on one of the very first days and he looks around and he doesn't know a single person, doesn't know hardly anybody. He knows them by maybe their reputation, but he doesn't know them personally. Certainly doesn't have their phone number. So what he does is he goes to the coach's room and he doesn't ask for a playbook. He doesn't ask for an opportunity to, address the team or anything like that. He asks for this. He asks for every person's phone number on the offensive team. He gets their personal phone number, their cell phone number. And guess what? He calls them, all of them, one at a time. Imagine how much time that took. And when he calls them, he asks them about their family. He asks them about their background. He asks them about how much they enjoyed playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He asks them about their season last year, what they expect for this next season. He asks them all kinds of questions. He really gets to know them as people. He doesn't start with commands. He starts with conversations. And you wouldn't believe it. The very next year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they go on to win the Super Bowl, one of the hardest championships to win. Now, that's Tom Brady. But on the opposite end, You've got Kobe Bryant. Now, I'm going to start by telling you I am a huge Kobe Bryant fan for the most part. I mean, he had an incredible career. He did amazing things when I was growing up. I loved almost every way he played. I tried to mimic my own college game after him with not so great results, but I thought he was incredible. And then, as I got older, I started learning more about leadership and how people actually follow people and why people follow people. And I realized that Kobe was great on the court. He had an amazing jump shot. He played unbelievable defense. He was not a great leader, especially early in his career. Here's why. He was very, very, very focused on gaining credibility through authority. If he scored the most points, if he knew the most about basketball, if he tried the hardest on the court, then therefore people would follow him. But what he found out right away was that people did not respond to authority. They didn't respond to arrogance. They didn't respond even to intelligence. They responded to influence. Like, for example, sometimes when he was early in his career, he'd go on road trips and the whole team would be hanging out and then the whole team would go out. They'd just hang out and have a good time, whatever they do. He would never go with them, ever. He thought that was an example of him being different and better. And so he'd go back to his room and he'd eat his dinner and he'd watch game film. He'd just focus on game film. And then other times, other players would hang out and he would go lift weights and he was getting better every single day while they were out partying. Totally fine. I'm not for partying. He probably made a good choice in that regard. But here's what he didn't do. He didn't build rapport with his team. He didn't learn how to connect with them personally. He didn't get to know them and their own backgrounds. He didn't find another way to do it. In fact, he just stuck by himself. What happened over time is that his team started to resent him. Even though he was great, he was better than all of them. They still didn't want to follow him. And they ran into challenge after challenge after challenge. In fact, him and Shaq notoriously had a horrible relationship. Both their egos clashed. Kobe's more than Shaq's. And then it wasn't until the second half of his career, towards the end of his career, we started to realize the value of understanding his teammates, helping them get better, understanding what made them tick, figuring out what made them click and want to go that next level. And for some people, it was encouragement. For some people, it was challenge. For some people, it was praise. But he figured out every individual and then started to respond in a way that made them better. It wasn't a natural muscle. He had to learn it and he had to earn it. And eventually it ended up helping him win a championship. But over time, he had to figure out that it wasn't about authority. It wasn't about being the biggest dog on the court. It's about him being a genuinely influential leader. Now, this is important because it illustrates the difference between authority and influence. Oftentimes, when you feel like you want to gain credibility, you want people to listen to you, you want to lead the team, you want to help people, you want to go somewhere, you flex your title. You're like, well, I'm the boss. I'm the supervisor. I started this company. I'm the one that counts the dollars. I'm the one that writes the checks. I'm the one that... And you sort of flex your authority in order to gain credibility, to get people to listen to you, to get people to comply with you. But the best leaders, they're the ones who understand how to lead with influence, even though they have authority, even though they are the boss, even though they are the supervisor, even though they are in charge. They don't lead with that. They don't flex with that. They don't get people to follow them because they have to. They get people to follow them, get this, because they want to. They really, really want to. They believe in who you are and where you're headed, and they want to follow you there. So how do you do it? How do you avoid the trap of leading with authority and then lead with influence instead? How do you gain credibility from who you are and where you're headed and not wielding a hammer and forcing people to follow you? Well, here's a couple ways to do it. So one of the first things you have to understand is that your authority, your title, let's say your title, whether it's quarterback or boss or owner or executive, CEO, VP of whatever, your title has a shelf life. Do you know what I mean by shelf life? Has a shelf life. There's only a limited amount of time that it's actually good before it starts to go bad. Like one of my favorite foods is cottage cheese. I love it. It's just at our house on a regular basis. We eat a ton of it. And one of the things that I notice when I go out to the grocery store and buy cottage cheese, the very first thing I look at beyond just the actual label is the tag on it. And there's a date. And the date basically tells me exactly how much time I have to eat this stuff before it's going to start to go bad. It's going to go bad. In fact, the reason why it's good is because it goes bad. It's fresh and it only lasts a certain amount of time. Your title is exactly like that. When you get a brand new title, if you're the boss, if you hire someone on your team and now they're on your team and they look at you a certain way because of your title, that has a shelf life. They're going to give you credibility because of your title. But after a while, they'll start looking at your behavior and not your title. They'll start looking for signs of influence and not your title. They'll start to look for ways that you're actually leading and not the way that you say you're going to lead. See, the truth is, over time, people start to gain evidence about who you are and where you're headed. And they're making micro decisions along the way as to whether or not they're actually going to follow you. I don't mean follow you as in like, oh yeah, I'm going to do my job because I get paid. I mean follow you in a way that says, I believe in what we're doing here. And in fact, I believe in it so much that I'm willing to put a little extra work in. I'm a little willing to do the things that maybe I don't get paid to do. I'm willing to maybe dot an extra I or cross an extra T or go a little extra because I take pride in my work, because I take pride in what we're doing, because I take pride in who you are as a leader. You see, people start to look for moments of influence, actual influence, and they look for evidence that you're the kind of leader they want to follow. When you realize your title has a shelf life, what you do is you start immediately building influence, not on your authority. You start building credibility based on your influence, not on your authority. So one of the best ways to do that is you can start by extending trust to people. Oftentimes people love when people extend trust to them. When you give them something to do and you say, I brought you in this team because I believe that you can do great work and I trust that you can do good work, and you extend trust to them to let them know that I think that you're worth the work that we're doing here. I think that you can actually help us grow. And when you extend trust to people, it's amazing how people oftentimes extend trust back. When you start with trust, oftentimes people reciprocate trust back to you. That's one great way to start to build influence. Another great way to build influence is to actually understand who people are and their motivation for being there. Everybody has a different reason for being on your team, and it might not be your reason. For you to take the time to get to know who they are, get to know what they want to do in their life, why they're there in the first place, and then try to find a way to attach the goals of the company to their personal goals, you'll immediately start to gain influence, because as the company wins, they win. So you start to understand more about who they are as people, and you start to position them so they can reach their goals. That's another way. Another way to build influence on top of that is to simply have a servant mindset. To say, look, my job is to help them grow into the person that they're designed to be, to help position them in our organization so they can continue to become who they're supposed to be. My job is to remove obstacles out of their way so they can continue to run fast and accomplish great things. My job is to help develop them, even if it comes with hard conversations, even if it comes with some reprimands, even if it comes with things that I might not want to do, but I know that if I do it, it's going to help them grow. I will do it, because ultimately my job is to help the company grow, but also to help them grow at the same time. People will feel that. They'll sense right away that you actually care about them, not just them as far as they are doing their job, but them as people. When you ask questions about their personal life, when you get to know them as people, people start to respond to that. Here's one last way to gain influence: consistency. Consistency, both in the things that you say and the things that you do. Now, one trap that leaders get into more than anything is they want to be flashy. They want to be exciting. They walk in the room, they want to be full of energy. They want to get everybody up and they want to get everybody going. And they think the job of a leader is to give some amazing speech and everyone gets motivated and they're excited and they're screaming on top of their lungs and they can't wait to get back to work and da-da-da-da-da. And that's often not great leadership. You see, great leadership, what you'll notice, is consistent. Great leadership is, frankly, boring. It's you doing the same thing every day. You doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, how you say you're going to do it, as often as you say you're going to do it. You do it consistently, again and again and again. And what people see is when they see your hard work day in and day out gain results, not just for the organization, but also for them as people. When they see that consistency, when they can rely on you, suddenly that reliance, that consistency develops trust. And trust is the exact same thing as credibility. When you say you're going to do something, they believe it because you did it yesterday and you did it the day before. When you say you're going to deliver, you do. That kind of consistent, boring effort creates trust. Ultimately, for you and for me, for you to become the kind of leader that you want to be, for me to become the kind of leader that I want to be, it's absolutely important that you lead people beyond authority, that you gain credibility through influence.